Y'all ready for this?
I didn't do it this time.
Y'all ready for this?
We back, baby. We back. PopCR is
Back at it again with them white vans.
Oh, dang. I got white shoes on, but they're not Vans.
Wait, did you already start recording?
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast. I was not paying attention.
Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. One hop this time. Right foot, let's stomp. Left foot, let's stomp. Pop, pop, real smooth.
Turn it out.
Yeah, welcome back to Pop Culture Redemption. Season 2 starts today. I'm Connor.
I'm Jacob.
Hello, I'm Jordan Summers, and I listen to the entire Tortured Poets Department Anthology, so you don't have to.
Well, we know where Jordan's going to go with this episode.
It was so long.
It was long. But hey, we are here to help the church have a better vision about God's presence and work in popular culture. And you know what time it is? It's time for the theme song.
Yes, it is.
Hit it.
Pop Bears beats Battlestar.
Stay on target.
You can't handle the truth.
Stay on target.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
With great power comes great responsibility.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
All right, well, again, welcome back to Season 2. We have a new episode that drops every other Tuesday. That's right, we said every other Tuesday. We're shifting things up this season. Jordan, how about you pull the people behind the curtain and let them know why we're shifted from a pod every week to a pod every other week?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, Connor. It's because this is hard. It is hard to make a podcast. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes effort. And it's just hard to do a podcast on a consistent weekly basis where we're getting together, we're preparing the content, and we know what we're going to say about it, and we're informed about whatever we're going to talk about, or, you know, relatively informed for three white guys who have no experience or really should have any say in a lot of things we talk about, maybe.
But I'm pretty fly for a white
For
guy.
a Jedi.
Oh, I'm a Jedi?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, you're a Jedi. This is the man, the Sith, the legend.
Jedi. Good.
Use your hate.
Very
It gives you
good.
focus.
This are gonna let you figure out what I am. Anyway. This are gonna hurt you. Anyway. That's a reference. I've made much reference this podcast already. So just to be able to keep up with the pace of our own lives and to continue to be able to do this podcast and do it well, we want to break this up into a bi-weekly podcast. But we have some cool stuff on the way, some stuff in the works that I think you're going to enjoy, or that you might be able to enjoy on the off weeks.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool. Where would they be able to access that, Jordan?
A little website known as patreon.com.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I think we got a little promo here. Let's insert that right here.
How do we find Jesus and his kingdom in the game franchise that created the ESRB due to its bloody, violent content? Hang with me. We're going on a journey into the story of Mortal Kombat. A story that I think will begin to feel familiar to us. This is the Gospel according to Mortal Kombat 9.
Well, yeah, that's something that we would love if you're interested in checking out our Patreon. Go ahead and go on there and peruse around, see what we got. We're really excited about that. And we got actually some more information coming later in the podcast that we will share with you as well regarding that. As we get into this episode, we invite you as well, if you're able to, rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That would help us a ton. We have a review on Apple Podcasts last season. Just someone said, "This is great. Funny and great. I like all the jokes." Hey, we appreciate that a lot.
Because our jokes are really dry.
Yeah, and a lot of my jokes fall flat. So for you to say that you like all the jokes is really generous and gracious, and I appreciate that. So if you wouldn't mind leaving a review and a rating. That would be really helpful for us. We currently have 11 ratings on Spotify. We're boasting a 5-star
We
rating
even have
right
a
now.
5-star rating on Audible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Audible. Yeah, or rate on whatever you listen to. I guess it doesn't necessarily be Apple or Spotify. Cool. And then finally, we're going to start a new segment on the show where we're going to ask some of your questions on the show. So if you'd like to go ahead and slide into the Pop Culture Redemption DMs on Instagram.
Stop it.
And submit your question for us to answer on the pod, that would be great. So next few episodes, we will start asking some of those listener questions. So anyways, we've got a great episode for you this week. We are kicking off season 2 by diving into Taylor Swift's new album, The Tortured Poets Department, and we're doing the anthology. Excuse me. I keep wanting to add R in there. Is that a different
Is it kind
word?
of like Costco's or Aldi's or
Is anthology a different kind of word?
Yes.
Okay. Do I want to know what it is?
I'm pretty sure I know exactly what it is. I'm going to double check because I don't want to get it wrong.
I keep wanting to say anthology, but I know it's not right, but I still say it anyways on accident.
It's close to anthropology.
That's true. Maybe that's...
Okay, so I guess anthropology is not a thing, but
let's coin it.
Anthropology. Okay. You want? I'll describe what it is right now. Anthropology is the study of furries.
Is it really?
No.
Okay.
Well, this is the anthology.
Anthropomorphic.
Okay, gotcha.
So this album was released at midnight. Well, actually, The Tortured Poets Apartment was released at midnight, the original album, on April 19th, 2024, and the anthology dropped 2 hours later with 15 additional songs.
I mean, that's like enough time to listen to the first album before you listen to the second one.
Yes, which may have led to the fact that The Tortured Poets Apartment is the first album in Spotify history to have more than 300 million streams in a single day.
And that's just on Spotify.
That's right.
That's insane.
Yep. So the whole anthology album has 31 songs, 2 hours and 2 minutes long, and it is officially Taylor Swift's longest studio album.
Yeah. I drove back from Kansas City to McPherson 2 hours. Like, when we didn't start listening to it immediately, but we listened to it about 20 minutes in and pulled into my driveway when the last song started. And I was a little frustrated that we didn't get to listen to the whole flipping album.
Yes. Yep. So, anyways, we're diving in. We're back to our normal rejoice, reject, redeem format, and we are going to start with rejoicing what is good. And my man Jordan here is going to kick us off.
All right. I want to rejoice the honesty of her lyrics. Mm-hmm. Swift doesn't pull her punches and doesn't pretend everything in her life is glamorous or like she's got it all figured out. She doesn't pretend she's always right, but she still offers criticism where she sees something wrong. And I think that's good. I think there's this modern tendency in songwriting that it's the Facebook effect. It's I'm only going to write songs about my life if it's A, trying to make somebody pity me, or B, trying to make me seem like I'm better than everybody else. And my life is this big, great, glamorous thing. But there's a long-standing tradition of songwriters, especially in modern history, of songwriters saying, no, the life of fame and fortune and being really well known, it sucks. And I am living proof. So I think that's really good that she does that and that she names those things. Yeah. And I just want to rejoice like her ability to do that and to just be honest in her songwriting, even if I don't fully agree with everything.
I think that's also a biblical concept that churches in Sunday morning can tend to forget. How many of the Psalms are actually happy? Right? About 2/3 of them are what scholars would call Psalms of lament or anger, which is where it's like, God, please hurt this person, kill his wife, murder his children, burn his livestock and his land, ruin his family name. I'm like, I don't want to say that that's relatable because that's what I actually want to do to somebody. But
oh, that's super relatable.
But it's like, dude, if I can be this honest, if David can be this honest with the Lord, like, I think we miss out on a large part of worship when we only acknowledge the good. Not even the Bible does that.
I recommend specifically Psalm 88.
Ooh, that is a good one.
Yeah, I think She's very, I think, and we talked about this when in season 1 when we talked about Taylor Swift and the Eras Tour. She's very prophetic in a lot of her writing, as in naming what she sees as not good. And I think a lot of those things I would agree with. I think some of the things I would disagree with, but for a lot of those critiques that she has of the world or culture or power or whatever it is, she is not afraid to, just like Jordan said, name those things and to call them out. Yeah. And that would be, the role of a prophet, to name what isn't good. And I think that she does that for sure. I think, too, I want to rejoice just in her music, the fact that she's a fantastic storyteller.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these songs to me, as I listened through the anthology, they sounded very similar. And on the one hand, sometimes I felt like the songs, and we talked about this too, some of the songs felt too similar, but within each of the songs, she's doing such great literary things as far as storytelling and using the use of metaphor and simile and asking questions. Yeah. Like really, I noticed this time listening through it, I'm like, man, she asks a lot of really profound questions.
Important questions.
Yeah. That I wish I would have written some of them down, but I didn't. I wish I could give you an example, but just listening through the whole album, I'm like, oh, that's a great question.
I mean, to name one of them in the prophecy, she's asking, like, can this prophecy be taken from me, or can this I think it was like a prophecy, basically.
Please change the prophecy. I just want someone who wants my company, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, she's asking, can you change this? And like that's a deep question if you're thinking about it. Like, can the circumstances of my life, can everything that led up to where I am at this moment, can they not be that? Can it be something else? Can it be something different? Can it be something that I have a more joyful vision of? Something that I think will fulfill me better.
You ready to hear the lyrics? The chorus says, "Please, I've been on my knees, change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy?" Man, there's some deep-seated regret there.
Well, and there's a questioning in there too,
it's like when you realize the cost that you didn't realize you had paid.
I'm sure that will come up later a little bit too. That song specifically. I want to music nerd out for a second and say that I noticed a little bit of what the equation is for the Taylor Swift sound. So here it is. Here's what I heard. This is what I heard. Oh, I was like, oh, this happens a lot. Is she saying? And for those of you who have not taken music theory, your eyes are about to glaze over for a second because this is probably going to go over your head a little bit. But a lot of her verses in her songs, she sticks on do, the tonic, the one of the music scale, and just kind of like speaks on that note, and then will flourish up to 2, 3, 4, 5, and then come back down to the 1. So an example of this that's maybe in a more popular song, if you haven't had a chance to listen to yet, this album is in Blank Space when she's doing the "nice to meet you, where you been." That's 1. That's all do right there. Da da you incredible things. Da 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 da. That sound happens a lot in this album, and I'm like, oh.
So her lyrics and the verses are almost more rhythmic than they are melodic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of her storytelling, right? She's able to, it's kind of like hip-hop a little bit. Like, you're able to have so much more story and content in what you're actually saying because you're so rhythmic and you're fitting it in. And I'm not saying that Taylor Swift's doing hip-hop.
I would love that if she did,
it's a similar concept in that she's speaking a lot of these melodically,
get on that
and content. then is adding in more of the melodic interest within the choruses and the bridges,
which is a lot different than from T Swift as a country artist.
If you want to write a Taylor Swift song, you do that, and I'll give you the chord progression right now. It's 1, 5, 4.
Yep.
There's at the very end, there's a couple of songs, or at least one song. I don't even remember which one it is because there's so many. But there's at least one song that changes that up and throws in some interesting chords. I'm like, that was a cool choice. That was fun. That was a little different than the 1, 5, 4 that was in every song that came before it. But whatever.
Yeah. in that point of view, it's more about the story and less about the music. It's the music supports the story.
Bob Dylan. Sorry, what?
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, Bob Dylan. Yeah. Like,
can you do Blank Space in a Bob Dylan voice?
I can.
Oh,
Cards on the table.
Nice to meet you. Where you been?
Where you been?
Nice to meet you. Where you been? You almost have to do like a Will Shatner. Is it Shatner
Nice
thing?
to.
Nice to. What's the Star Trek guy? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Kirk, right? Guy that played
Is
Kirk.
it Kirk?
He was an X-Men as well.
No, Shatner.
Is it Shatner that does the? Today I buttered my toast with.
Shatner. William Shatner.
You almost just do combine that voice with, like, it's like Bob Dylan doing a Shatner impression, and then you've got Taylor Swift's Blank Space in the style of Bob Dylan.
So
I can show you incredible things. And here's the other Bob Dylan. I can show you incredible things.
So one of the examples of the fantastic storytelling that I want to, and just how relatable her lyrics are. I'm not rejoicing the message of these lyrics, but I'm rejoicing how relatable they are to me, because this is what I do. Is she in I Hate It Here? That's a song on this album. She talks about escaping to the comfort of her own mind and imagination and avoiding hard circumstances and emotions by fantasizing of a fake reality where only I get to go and where I control and where I hold the key to it. And fair warning, I'm not giving the key to anybody. Like, that's kind of what she's talking about in her song. And I'm like, that is relatable. I do that on a daily, if not hourly basis.
Yeah, relatable, healthy.
I'm not saying please do that. I'm just saying, I was like, that is a great way to put that, the way that she phrased it in her song and told about that experience.
Yeah.
I was like, that is a very unique way and a great way to put that. And yes, I have been there.
I mean, there are probably some instances where doing that is healthy, but staying there and be like, well, I'm keeping the key. In fact, I'm throwing it away. Good luck finding me.
Right.
That's not the best.
Yeah, I have this bad tendency to go into hermit mode. I don't know if you knew that about me.
You?
Yeah.
You're a social butterfly.
Yeah.
No, Connor is a social moth.
As long as that's right.
Only shows up as long as there's light, and then, or if there's some cotton in a closet,
Or food. Food typically. Food typically. Is
yeah,
a good
the
way to
food
get me.
involves my wife's cookies.
Dude,
That's an internet meme.
those were delicious.
Your wife's cookies.
They were fantastic.
Arnold
pretty good.
Schwarzenegger.
Anything else to rejoice, boys?
A lot of the second half was very simple. And I actually really appreciated that, because a lot of pop music is very overproduced. But even in some of the songs in the first half, like I was thinking about the song So Long London. Lyrically, like, I really loved all of her play of changing the term of So Long London. But like the music for it was simple, yet like it didn't ever get boring. I don't know, it didn't feel over the top. It's very raw, it's very simple, and I kind of liked it.
I rejoice that this is going to sound horrible. I rejoice that we're not going to get another Taylor Swift album for a while, because my guess is she might do the same thing. Because if next time she releases a 3-hour album, I might cry.
I mean, it got 300 million streams overnight. This might be the new business model for her.
Honestly, okay, I'm not going to lie. That's another thing that I want to rejoice now that I'm thinking about it again. I was going to talk about this. I forgot to write it down. I want to rejoice that somebody put out an album and people are actually listening to the whole thing.
Yes.
Like,
'Cause
I'm
everything is
sick
so
of singles
single-driven.
culture. I love albums. I love listening to the whole thing and getting the full picture of what someone was going through at a particular time, or getting the full story, or getting every nuance that they're throwing in. I like listening to the whole thing. Even if I don't like every song, even if I don't agree with every song, I like to be able to go in and know the whole story, or the whole just have the whole full experience in the way that the artist intended.
Yeah, I have, because there's. I've been really intrigued. Do you know the artist Forrest Frank?
Yes.
I'm about to have a good day. Na-na. It's so weird how he's doing releases right now, because I wonder if he's doing it in a similar kind of basis, or if he's just trying to fight the algorithm. He released his first single, "Good Day," and then his second time his next release had, I don't remember what track it was. Like, it had the new song and then "Good Day" on the second release, and then the third time the release had song 1, song 2, and "Good Day." And like, he's been building an album through singles. It's really fascinating. And I wonder if you were to treat that with an album concept, it's like you're giving a taste of the concept every time you release something. And it also probably helps fight the algorithm because you take a song that already has a bunch of hits and put it on a release with another song.
Yeah. Is that like, I mean, that would kind of be like a multiple course meal as opposed to the whole meal being on your table.
A multiple course meal where like you get fed your appetizer. And then you're given your main course with another of the appetizer, and then you're given the dessert with the main course with another of the main course and another appetizer.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been tracking it, and it's if this is a concept for an album, this could be really cool. A cool way of like.
Pretty sure you just described Red Lobster.
Yeah, basically, but like spreading
cheddar biscuits.
But like spreading out the concept of the album where you get like a teaser of the story rather than the whole thing all at once. Like that could be really interesting. Sorry, Rabbit Trail. We can cut that out.
Well,
if we need to.
It's great because we're going to take a break and run to Red Lobster and get some cheddar biscuits, and we'll be back in just a second. Hey, it's me again. I just wanted to invite you to check out our Patreon page that we've newly created this season. We have started and will be offering exclusive pop culture content, conversations, and more on that platform. And I wanted to give you actually a sneak peek at something I'm pumped to pour into. I'm calling it The Playlist, Secular Songs That Preach. And so I'll be diving into different secular songs that actually speak profound truths. St. Augustine once said that all truth is God's truth. So I'll tie in the theological reasons for why the song that I'm unpacking is true and good so we can better see God at work through the lyrics of some of the world's most popular artists and groups, some of these songs that are in tons of playlists, right? And so before we get back in the pod, here's a snippet from one of my posts, diving into the song 85 by Andy Grammer. Again, you can find this whole audio and written post on our Patreon. We hope you check it out. Because when we give up stuff to find more of God, he is so worth it. Because when we place more of our hope, contentment, and peace in God instead of money, we live lives of true freedom and security. Because when we prioritize the people and relationships in our lives over the stuff that we can get, we lead lives full of love and significance. And, as Andy Grammer puts it, because we don't want to be 85 singing, "Oh no, I think I missed it. I was chasing money." All right, welcome back. Let's
No, I just...
Dude, them cheddar biscuits were bomb.
We already ate them. Just nom cookied those things. All right, so we're diving into the reject part of this, and so we're looking at again what does this album either explicitly say or represent, either from Taylor Swift or representing culture that we want to say, hey, actually that's not ultimately good.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna let Jacob start.
Okay, because, I got a lot of sense from this album of like how being tortured or broken is a badge of honor worth being proud of. Like, first of all, if this was a cry for help, well, that's successful. Like, I definitely heard that. But if it's just I'm so broken, look how cool, like, look how like strong I am, of like, look how much crap I can sit in. That's not what we're called to do with our pain. I should actually probably read my... So I'm worried that this teaches our culture that being broken is something that we should want. Like it's cooler, like we're cooler for being broken and staying broken. It could be a culture of celebrating pain, which I'll say that acknowledging the pain is a huge thing because we used to live in a culture where you don't even mention it. Every single picture on your Instagram better be of you living your blessed life. But so at least the fact that she is acknowledging and showing that, like, dude, this sucks. Because there's a lot of aspects in our life that suck. Not everything is Instagram worthy. But we need to address pain in order to heal from it. And so there's kind of the like duality to this. There's kind of like a duality to this. One, if you don't address your pain, you can't heal from it. You can't heal from what you don't acknowledge. Two, you can't just sit in your pain. Because then that takes what the enemy likes to do to us and isolate us. How much of this album was her bringing out or pointing out how alone she feels in her fame and in her broken and messed up relationships. Like, yes, we've all been through broken, messed up relationships, but we are called to, like, my brain just kind of went to James 5, where he says, confess your sins to one another. Why? So that you may be healed. we find the healing, like physical healing in ourselves. Maybe it's not like actual miraculous physical healing, but like we find healing together rather than keeping it to ourselves and wearing our pain like a badge of honor. That was my big takeaway, that I respect acknowledging it, but that is not the destination. That's the start of the journey.
It reminds me of my internship at Countryside. At the very beginning, you had me take an Enneagram test. I did. And I found out the toxic traits of Enneagram 4, which I am painfully forever and always, is exactly what I just said. It's the idea of this being like this tortured artist thing. Like it's this, like everything you just described, based on the test that you had me take, it's this Enneagram 4, the toxic traits of it maxed out. Which I feel
so
like
in your unhealthiest state, this would be like your favorite album.
No.
Your most unhealthy, like not stylistic wise.
No,
content.
Content wise, no, not even then. But like, I will say, like, there's a lot of that, like the tortured poet or the tortured artist or like the the starving artist, that kind of thing. I can relate to that. I can, like, I get that. I feel that. Like, I'm like, I know exactly how you are feeling about this, and it is not good. It sucks, but also we kind of have to get over ourselves sometimes. If you're a starving artist,
you just ask your boy Connor or Jacob, and we will give you a meal if you're the starving artist.
Well, that's the weird thing about being a starving artist. The reason you're starving is because you're not serving.
Is because you're not what?
Because you're not serving the food.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that's... I think this is in my notes for the next episode. So here's, I guess, a quick preview. But
shameless plug. Come back in 2 weeks.
No, but it's. I was reading a book called Healing Grace. I don't remember the subtitle. I don't remember the artist or the author. I guess he's an artist. He writes. But how therapists will actually suggest to a lot of people dealing with trauma to actively help others in their trauma. So, like, if you're trying to get over the loss of someone really important in your life, go serve in a soup kitchen. Like, and not for the sake of actually building yourself up or for holding people at arm's reach, but that, like, we were literally created to heal together because we were created in the image of community. That doesn't happen when we keep all our crap to ourselves.
Jordan,
love that.
What's your reject?
My reject? I reject Daddy, I love him.
Oh,
Daddy.
But Daddy, I love him. Anyway. Okay, there's a line in the song. It's, I don't even know how long in it is, but there's this line. Swift writes, "I'll tell you something about my good name. It's mine alone to disgrace." That is not true. Okay, I want to make 2 quick points. I want to make a quick point, and then I'm going to make a longer point. Number 1, we don't actually really get to choose our name. Like, we might think we can, like, we marry and then we choose our name, we got choosing our spouse, or like we can go change our name, whatever. Like, look, nobody gets to choose their name when they're born. Your name is something that is given to you. You don't get to decide your own identity. You don't. Like, that's not how identity works. That's not how God made us. It's not even like how cultural societies work. That's just, it's not how it works. But that's a minor point. Here's my bigger point, though. Taylor Swift is responsible for what she does with her influence in the same way Abraham Lincoln, Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, and King David were. Their reputations were not purely their own reputations. This shows the fundamental lack of wisdom, often evident. Sometimes that can be evident in Taylor Swift's lyrics.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like being a good steward of what we've been given.
Yeah,
she's been given this massive amount of influence, and if she's just like, well, I can do whatever I want with it, it's like, no. Like, think about the people that are following you. Think about the people that listen to you.
Well, it's not just being a good steward of what you've been given. It's sometimes because, you have a responsibility with your circumstances. Everybody is responsible to all of the circumstances of their lives, regardless of what those circumstances are. If they're great circumstances, then you're responsible for what you are doing in those circumstances. If you're if you have like your dream job and you've got the dream family, the dream spouse, the wonderful, awesome kids and loving extended family, and you're making great money, like you're responsible for all of those areas of your life, what you're doing with them. If you have a great spouse and you're treating that spouse horribly, you're responsible for that. If you have kids and you're treating your kids horribly, you're responsible for that. Now let's flip that on the other side. If you are having just a horrible go at life, if you didn't get the promotion at work that you're wanting, if you've been rejected over and over and over again and you can't seem to settle down, if you and your partner are trying to have a kid and it's just not happening for whatever reason, like those things are hard. Those things suck. Those like difficult circumstances are difficult. That's like by nature. Those kinds of things happen to all of us. No matter what our circumstances, whether we are the poorest of the poor or the richest of the rich, all of us are accountable to what we do in response and in the middle of our circumstances.
Maybe another way to say that, and I don't know if somebody's coined this term yet or not, but with great power comes great responsibility.
With great power, I really
Is that
was
what
hoping
your big moment
Across
was
the
earlier when you were
Spider-Verse.
like,
Yeah, that was me. Yeah,
I really was hoping you were going to say
the Across the Spider-Verse with great power comes great accountability.
I don't think that's how the saying goes.
Or you could say no man is an island. Right, is part of what I was thinking about, like when you were talking about that too, is that we are, which we talked about again in the Across the Spider-Verse episode, actually, is the fact that none of us exist in a vacuum. Like our actions have consequences, good and bad, for the people that are around us, whether intentional or unintentional.
Which is why I didn't eat Taco Bell today.
And we thank you.
Thank you.
And that's right. And your country thanks you. No.
That's right. I got those nuke codes.
There you go.
Is that what Taco Bell stands for? Is that like a hidden code?
Anyway.
Yeah, chew on that for a little while. My reject, I have a few. Let me think here. I'll go with these. One is, my smaller point would be, within the song Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, there's a lot of bitterness, jadedness, obviously, she's talking about the culture of criticism and how we are so quick as a society to tear people down, specifically to tear down and to critique and to criticize unfairly artists, and how that impacts the people, right? We think about artists and what they produce, but we don't often think about how that impacts them as people. And I think even like for our little old podcast, little PopCR podcast on YouTube, we have gotten some very not helpful comments, dare I say hateful comments. And that impacts us, like it, and I try not to let it impact me. And that's something to continue to work through with the Lord. But and we're just a little podcast. We're not Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's getting like 1 billion, maybe probably more than 1 billion times the love and the hate that we're getting just with her platform. And so, like James 1, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Ephesians 4, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Proverbs 16, a perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. Philippians 2, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Church, please, let us lead the way in how to love one another and be gracious to one another and kind to one another in digital spaces. I think it's one of the most discouraging things that I experience as a believer with other believers in the United States church is the amount of people that I go to church with who I see what they post on Facebook, and it's disheartening. It's like, I can't believe you say you worship God and you love the Lord, and I believe that you do, But for some reason, there's a disconnect in our digital spaces for many of us where we go, I can behave this way, right? Digital spaces, but in person, I'm going to be, I'm going to be much kinder and a little gentler. So I agree with her in that, and I reject the culture of criticism that exists specifically in digital spaces. Yeah. My bigger point, unless you got something you want to say, you want to piggyback on that.
I think Jordan had something to say.
So I think part of the problem that can happen is there's this weird either anonymity or inverse anonymity. What do I mean? Anonymity, obviously, like we think, oh, I can say this because no one's going to really know it was me, right? Facebook, that's another story. People do know it's you, but you don't know who the other people are. That's the inverse anonymity. So I can say whatever I want because it's Facebook. People can go read it, or maybe they won't read it. But you're not concerned. You don't know what their response is going to be, and you don't really care about their response. It's this like there's this distancing, but there's no such thing as anonymity. Period.
Every person is a person.
Every person is a person, but with anonymity, everybody is known. Yeah. That is one of the tenets of our faith, that God knows us, that He is all-knowing, and He is omnipresent. He's all present with us. So when we are saying something in online spaces, I think a lot of us pretend like God can't see that, or as if He's internet blind. It's like, that's not the case. Yeah. Whenever we go into those spaces, even if we don't think that it really matters or impacts other people online, like it does.
Yeah. You ready for the first book recommendation of season 2? It's not John Mark Comer.
Well, then I'm not ready for it.
Okay, dang it. It's by Justin McRoberts. So JM,
Justin
not JMC.
McComer?
No. So I picked this book up at Twice Told Tales in McPherson, and I thought it was just going to be this little book. He came and spoke at Central a couple years ago, so I was like, "Oh, I know this guy." Read the book in a day; it's fantastic. But he's got this great story. I'm not going to tell. Sorry, I hate you. I'm not going to tell the full story because you should just go buy the book. But basically, there's a chapter in this where he's telling the story about how he was trying to put together this big old project about like project, album, book, whatever, basically surrounded about faith and community as artists. And had some problems trying to get this book published, in which, while he was trying to, a guy who has been known as a musician and pastor was basically screaming the head off of the customer service for the publishing company, and then ended up screwing himself over with that and all this other nonsense. But he got to the end of it, and he's like, dang, I hope that I'm not judged like that if I'm going to be doing this and following after my passion, that it's too high a price to treat other people as objects in my ways or assets to get what I want. And so he was saying, like, even the baristas at the coffee shop are human beings that we often treat as means to an end. And even the customer service side of a publishing company, like, that was a person that was reading and editing this guy's book about love and faith and community and listening to the author chew him out and calling him names. Like,
yep.
Not because there's the two sides of the coin. Either we think that we're not being seen, like, oh, God's internet blind, or this person's not a person. They're just a means to an end. Like, we are all known.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah. Right. Or you forget that there's like in the case of famous people, you forget there's a person behind the things that they're producing.
Yep.
That you're consuming.
Yeah. Oh.
And
yeah.
All that. So
the book was called "It Is What You Make of It" by Justin McRoberts.
There you go. My bigger reject, which I'll shrink a little bit, is "The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived." That song ends with this. I don't think it's the chorus, but it's a closing phrase. Swift sings, "And in plain sight you hid, but you are what you did. And I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive the smallest man who ever lived." And there's two things in there I could reject. The first being "you are what you did," but I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do the second one. "And I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive." So, forgiveness. I mean, in the Christian faith, obviously forgiveness plays a central role. But I think sometimes we have in culture, and this can be in Christian circles as well, we have a really hard time forgiving someone because we don't feel like they deserve our forgiveness. Like, they haven't made it right. I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of forgiving them. And that's a backwards way to look at forgiveness. So I've heard it said, and I tried to look for who this is attributed to, and I could not figure out for sure. But the phrase, not forgiving someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And that is true. So specifically for believers, for the church, let's be reminded of our call to forgive as we have been forgiven by God, right? So the end of the Lord's Prayer, as recorded in Matthew 6:14-15, Jesus says, "For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins."
It's the only conditional part of the Lord's Prayer.
Oh, right. And I think as believers, we need to remember, and I don't think this is an unpopular sentiment from Taylor Swift. I think this is something that the world thinks is, why would I forgive them if they don't deserve it? And I think this seeps into the church, and that's why I want to name it right now, is because it seeps into us as, hey, they don't deserve my forgiveness. And you're like, well, they might not, but that's the whole point of forgiveness. We don't deserve God's forgiveness. If you're a Christian, you believe that
Yep.
what the Bible says is true.
Clearly,
the Bible's
I
pretty
deserve
clear.
forgiveness. I deserve
That's right. Yeah. Because the Bible says, right, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Like, God makes the way, and it's the free gift of God. So let's, instead of withholding that from others, let's be generous in our forgiveness of others, and be reminded that when we don't forgive, that's not just a broken relationship that's not going to heal with that person, but that's something that will fester in our lives. If we don't forgive, if we don't heal from whatever the brokenness is and forgive that person, then that will show up again and again and again. Whenever somebody does something similar, or you get reminded of that, then you assume some things because you haven't healed from this thing. It's like a scab reopening a wound that's very deep that has not healed yet. That's what happens when we don't forgive. So let's forgive. Again, this is another call to the church. Let's lead the way in offering forgiveness generously, recognizing that we have been generously forgiven as the people of God.
Forgive like it's an emergency.
Nice.
Ooh.
I like that.
Ooh, that needs to go on a t-shirt.
T-shirt. All right. Is that, I think we've rejected plenty. I feel, oh, thank you. I'm going to go work on forgiving Jake for that comment by taking a break real quick. We'll be back.
I want to take a moment to let you in on something that I'm really excited about. So you may have heard that we've launched our Patreon page, and in that Patreon, you will have access to content from us at PopCR that you will not be able to find anywhere else. And my contribution to this is through a book club that I'm calling The Archives. In this club, we'll meet once or twice a month on Zoom or something like that, going through a book and discussing how we can apply what we learned in these books into our daily life. And I'm excited to announce that the first book that we'll be covering is by an author that I think I may have mentioned before. John Mark Comer's book, Practicing the Way, is a book that I personally believe is a must-read for anyone serious about following Jesus. He talks about the difference between being a cultural Christian and committing your life as an apprentice to Jesus, based on the crucial truth that spiritual formation happens to us no matter what, and that there are no accidental saints. That if we want any say for the people that we want to become by the end of our lives, we have to be intentional about the ways that we walk with Jesus. If this is something you want to dive into, then make sure you subscribe to our Patreon and sign up for The Archives. Signups will take place throughout the month of June, and we'll start meeting sometime in early July. I really look forward to seeing you there.
All right. Welcome back. We're at home stretch. Namesake of the pod right here. The
Wait.
Redeem.
What's the name of this podcast?
Redeem. It's Pop Culture Redemption.
Redemption?
Redemption.
I need to change the logo then.
Redemption. That's such a bummer when your car sounds like that. It's just such a bummer. Okay, I'm gonna kick this section off My redeem is, so the theme to me as I listen to this album is the lament of being in a doomed relationship and yet not for some reason being able to leave or to move past the relationship that either is dead or has or will be dead soon. Like that's the theme, in my opinion, listening to it. And so this reminds us, again, we talk about redemption. This is we're trying to figure out what are the bridge points to the gospel as we engage with culture, because when we engage with culture, we engage with people in the culture, real people that we interact with, hopefully on a weekly, if not daily basis. This reminds us that in our longing for a perfect someone who will make life more rich and meaningful, that if we look for that person in anyone that is not Jesus, that we will eventually be let down. Like that person will eventually fail. Given enough time, that person will absolutely hurt us, break our trust, either on purpose or on accident. And so again, if you're in a relationship with anyone, this doesn't just have to be a significant other relationship. It can be a friend, a parent, a child, family member, coworker, whatever. No matter how good they are, eventually they'll fail, and they will hurt us. And guess what? We do the same thing to other people, right? Like I hurt people all the time, not on purpose, hopefully, sometimes on purpose, but oftentimes unintentionally as well. And the redeeming point of this is that it allows us to be reminded and to remind others and to tell people the others is a great truth that Jesus is perfect, that Jesus has come to make all things new, that he is in the business of transformation through the power and presence of the Holy Spirit, dwelling in the hearts of all who believe. He's in the business of reconciliation, of repairing relationships that are broken or that are on the verge of ending, that he is ultimately where we can find our hope in sustenance and peace and joy, and he will never fail. Like that he is our rock of salvation, as the scripture tells us. And so that just in and of itself, I look at this whole album and I see and I feel, as I listen to it, a lot of mourning, but not just mourning, a lot of bitterness, a lot of spite, a lot of anger, a lot of jadedness. And I think a lot of that is because, like so much of the culture, too much of our self-worth and our significance is being put in another person that isn't Jesus and another person who is going to let us down. And I'll just say real quick too, I think mourning a broken relationship is absolutely good practice. And we talked about that earlier in the episode a little bit. Mourning is good. It's not a place we want to stay forever permanently, but it's something that is necessary, because if we're not mourning a broken relationship, it either means one, that relationship really didn't mean much to us, or two, and this is the more, in my opinion, probably more accurate, we are numbing and repressing the pain.
It either didn't mean enough or it meant too much.
Yeah, I'm thinking not necessarily too much, but we're not actually dealing with the hard emotions. Yep. And which will lead to bitterness. And I heard a lot of bitterness in this album, listening through it, and a cycle of future brokenness in other relationships. So when we are hurt, when we are in a relationship that is broken, it reminds us that Jesus is the only perfect someone for us, right? And that when we have him as our top priority of our lives, that all the other relationships fit into the places that they're supposed to be, and they're able to be more likely to be healthy, or at least healthier in that space. And when we experience broken relationships, we're not completely devastated because our hope is in Jesus, not in that person ultimately. So that's my redeem. That's what I got. You guys feel that? Or is it kind of like...
Can I have a piggyback and then Jordan can bring us home?
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's how we often think that God sees us, in our brokenness. It's really easy, and I grew up in this life too. I messed up. God must be so dang ticked at me. Like,
so golly gosh darn ticked off.
So heckin' mad. Like, God must be so mad at me. I'm too broken, and all like that. That's what can cause us to run away. It's what would he say? But really, That's not how he sees us. He's not bitter whenever we break, whenever we walk away from him. He's not bitter whenever we mess up, whenever we're trying to follow him. He's not bitter when we hurt ourselves or others. He's not. And the beautiful thing here is we can never fix another relationship. But you know what? No, really, he can. Like, we're trying to look for someone to fix us. We're running away from the one who can. And he's not mad. If that was the case, he would not have sent himself down in the form of his son to die on the cross and raise again, giving us new life. Like, we are not walking hand in hand in a toxic relationship with a God who's always mad at us. And if that is, oh man, I had a friend that, I can't remember what the exact verse is. It's in Matthew and Mark. I think it's in Luke and John. I don't really know. But Jesus' baptism, when the Spirit comes down like a dove and says, "This is my son in whom I am pleased." A friend of mine once told me, if there is ever a part in your life where you don't feel like God is speaking that over you, then you are not hearing the voice of God. If there is not ever a point where when you believe that God is saying, "This is my child whom I love and whom I am well pleased," then you have a twisted or an inaccurate sense of God. He's not mad. He just wants to be there, and he wants us to be close to him and know him. So he can fix us. No, really, he can.
I'm reminded of the story of the wayward son, prodigal son, lost son. Yeah. Father was not mad, wasn't even concerned about anything other than my son is back.
He never asked what the son did.
He didn't care.
No.
That wasn't part of the conversation. It was, you are back in the family. You are here again. You are alive. You were dead, and now you're here. You're alive. You are with me. That was the father's concern, was you are now with me again.
Yeah. He's not singing the Tortured Poets Department album over us.
Well, and and what was the father's response to the eldest son? Son, you have been with me the whole time. And now your brother is back with me. That's a good thing. It is, yes.
Yep.
Yep. Bring us home, Jordan.
So, the prophecy. Taylor Swift expresses the pained reality of fame, the loneliness it can bring, and the lack of fulfillment. She also names a real, valid longing for settled and stable relationship. Here's the kicker. Not Butker.
What did you just say?
That's a separate conversation. We will not be breaching on this podcast today.
Nope.
I appreciate you.
I just can't believe I just made a sports reference.
I'm proud of you.
I don't think I've ever done that my entire life.
Proud of you.
27 and I made a sports reference for the first time.
I'm so proud
That's
of
weird.
you.
I'm not.
He was
I feel
offside.
real bad about that. Anyway, here's the kicker. I think she's onto something. I think that she's almost there. I think because she's like, this life of being currently the world's biggest pop star, it's not doing it for me. And the problem she has isn't, if only I had that other person's life, which is hilarious, by the way. You look at, Joe Schmo, who's got the wife and kids, and he's like, man, if only I had done more with my music career, or, whatever else. Like, oh man, if only I had gotten into that other law firm or this or that. Like, people are like regretting their lives and regretting that they're not the biggest, the baddest, the most popular, the person who's had the most success. And they're like, oh, if only I was the winner and if only I got everything that I wanted. And then the person who is literally like the biggest pop star in the world right now, as far as I'm aware,
Super big.
is saying, man, I wish I had a small, simple life. I'll trade all of this fame, all the fortune. You can have it. I don't want it. But she's saying, I want that small, simple life. And ultimately, one, she can't ever have that. Which means that if that is the thing that for the rest of her life she longs for, she's going to spend the rest of her life in discontented longing.
Yep.
Which is bad for anybody. Two, she is close to realizing, and this is what I hope that she does realize, is that ultimately nothing will satisfy except God himself. It's knowing God, knowing Jesus, and walking with him. It's living in and with the Spirit. It's having that fulfillment. And it doesn't make every desire just magically go away. It doesn't make your life just this magical, happy, slappy, clappy. What was the word that you used at the beginning of the podcast? Not campy, not content. No. It's whimsical. It doesn't make your life magically whimsical. But what it does do is it gives us hope. It helps us look forward to when we will ultimately be satisfied.
Yeah.
Because all pain and suffering will be gone, and we will be able to be with the Lord, that we will be with the one who loves us, who doesn't turn away from us, who never wrongs us, who knows us better than we know ourselves, who loves us unconditionally, like that.
Yeah. Just as we are, too.
Just as we are, yeah. I think getting to that point where the thing that if Taylor Swift and if any and all of us could get to, if any one of us can get to that point where the thing that we ultimately want more than anything else is God himself, then nothing can be taken from us, because we have everything we need, and we will always have everything we need. We will have our ultimate desire constantly always met and fulfilled.
Yep.
Because God is always there, is always here with us, present among us. And that will only continue to be more true, especially as the Lord's return comes. So
comparison is the thief of joy. When we learn to live the life that God has given us and not wish that we had lived someone else's life. God called you to be Jordan.
That's really life. Not good, because I'm not Jordan. I'm Jordan Summers.
I hate you so much. I'm trying to be serious right now.
I was going to say that, what you said? What was the thing you just said?
Comparison is the thief of joy.
So I was going to say envy is the thief of contentment. Similar.
Frieza is the enemy of Goku.
Crowd pleaser. Okay. Hey, this has been really good episode. Connor's got a song recommendation.
Is it by Disciple? Please tell me it's by Disciple.
It's not.
Start stealing Jordan's thing.
No, it's not by Disciple. It's by Jonathan Traylor, not Taylor. Traylor, called Hope, and it's a good one. I like it. It's a banger. So check that one out if you want. All right, wrapping up the episode. Thanks for joining the conversation today. If you have anything that you would like to add to the conversation, it'd be really helpful for us if you could hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. Just kind of, shoot your thought into the digital space and tag us on it, and then we'll respond. What?
Yes, into the void.
Into the void. That works too. Yep. Or you can check us out on Patreon for additional pop culture redemption content.
Heyo.
And to find out how you can support the show and help it grow. Because we're here trying to help the church have better vision about God moving and working in pop culture. And we need you to help us see that mission accomplished. So, otherwise, this is today's show. Check out Taylor Swift's album if you haven't already. It's worth the listen, in my opinion. And we'll be back on this feed in 2 weeks. Until next time, remember, God is working in pop culture. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Pop.
Real smooth.
Get love, nerd.
Go. Leave!
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Why are you still listening to this? We're just going and going. Like, you could be doing other things with your time right now. Like, you could, I don't know, maybe you need to wash the dishes. Maybe it's time for you to go and wash the dishes.
You've been avoiding that pile of clean clothes for hours. Just fold it or hang it up.
Yeah.
You could check out our Patreon.
Yeah, you could check. Why aren't you?
Join Jake's book club.
The archive.
Yeah. The archives. Go check out the archives. Go check out the playlist.
Or the gospel according to video games.
if you're into that kind of thing.
Okay, bye, for real.
Bye bye.